couple of days ago, some dude donates $18 million to the athletic program. Then this morning, Maryland completes the signing of a top 25 football class. Loxley talks about having tons of NIL. Now the basketball team just boat raced. What are they in the net? A top 10 team in the net rankings? Just boat raced Ohio State. Basketball is fun again. Let's go.
Well, that was different, wasn't it?
And why?
I mean,
since we've seen that kind of performance.
You know what it reminded me a bit of was that the Mello freshman year, the Norlander night, when they were in that tournament in Kansas City, I think, and played ranked Iowa State when Fred Hoiberg was good. And we didn't really know what Maryland had with that kind of team. Certainly not with Mello, walking in as a freshman, kind of like Diamond Stone, Derek Queen coming in as a freshman, thinking he'd obviously be good, but not necessarily all world. And that team, kind of said, "Hey, we're here and we mean business." And this feels very similar to that. Obviously, Ohio State's 5-3 now, but those, they played some tough games. They beat a really good Texas team. Like, this is a good basketball team. And Maryland in the first half and really the first 30 minutes really just kind of imposed their will on them offensively and defensively. Certainly, we had talked a lot about on the offensive end, maybe these aren't always the best shots to take, but they just got some guys who can score the basketball, right? They've been missing that the last few years. And on the defensive end, where we had some questions, even against some of those other teams, maybe letting them go on those dribble drives a little easier, letting them hit a few threes over them. But like Ohio State, I think, is the number 1 or number 2 team in the country in terms of made three-pointers, and they completely shut them down for 30 minutes. So, I mean, that was just as much. I mean, they were up a 40-burger halfway through the second half. I mean,
they stopped playing after.
Yeah, they absolutely quit. And
that's annoying. Again,
it's annoying, but psychology is psychology. You're up 40,
every team is going to slow down there. That's,
Yeah.
I was actually surprised he didn't empty the bench a little earlier, although now the bench is a little shorter with Geronimo, now Braden Pierce out. But either way, I mean, Jacoby Gillespie, I reported in the preseason, they felt like he wasn't a big fall off from Jameer Young. And that I understood when people kind of rolled their eyes at that, typical offset. He's not. Like, he's a better shooter. He is a really underrated athlete. I mean, those Ohio State guards couldn't stay in front of him for anything. Derek Queen, what else can you say at this point? There's a lot more balance than people realize or than we expected scoring wise. And then, like Robbie Hummel said during the broadcast, they're top 10 nationally in turnovers on offense and defense. And
you know what you can say about Derek Queen at this point? He's the next guy going in the rafters. I'm saying it right now. He's going to be an All-American.
Here long enough?
He's going to be an All-American this year and maybe leave, and he's going in the raft. I'm calling that right now. That
needs 2 years. If he stays 2 years, I agree, which is rare. There's not many
even one
guys. 1 year, you think? The only guy, Steve Francis, Steve Francis is the only.
He's the only one. But if he's an All-American this year or close, he's going to be in the.
He won't be an All-American, I don't think. He'll be a freshman All-American.
Why not?
Because I don't think he'll put up the numbers. They have so much balance, Either way, he could be first team All-Conference. He should be. I can't imagine,
Yeah. And he's breaking records for 20-point games and double-doubles and doing things that only Joe Smith did, right? Like, it's crazy.
And the thing is, he doesn't have nearly Joe Smith's athleticism either. He is so skilled. How many times
tonight very different.
Did he do 16 different pivot moves and a left-handed spinning hook shot? I mean, it's like the stuff that I used to do in the driveway against my kid, except like actually really doing it. So he's incredible.
His basketball IQ is just off the charts. I mean, I swear to God, when Ohio State went zone and DQ went up to the high post to kind of key that, the offense against it. I actually felt bad for Ohio State. I was like, oh my God, you're just going to let him stand there and turn around and just dictate what's going to happen now. I mean, he's just an incredibly smart player. You
can actually see him processing the situation as he starts to make his move. Like you can see him immediately reacting and adjusting as it goes. Some of his passes are he's the best passer on the team. Clearly, none of those guards as well as him. Knocking down. He's not hitting the three. That's really the only knock at this point is he's not hitting the three. I think he's
right. And
12-9 or something, but
it would be okay if he stopped doing that. But I know he's got, NBA aspirations, and that's going to be expected of him if he's going to make that jump, whether this year or next year or what have you. But I think when it feels like now we have enough of a sample size of good teams, bad teams, and everybody in between where you can start to make some real observations about the team. There's a lot of people, doing every one of you who didn't want Gapare, should go apologize to him. Hey, hand up. All right. I was one of those guys. But I will say the reason I was one of those guys wasn't because I didn't think Gapare was talented. It was because I was worried about the shooting, and I was worried about having a backup point guard. And not only did Willard go and get Jay Young, who I thought would absolutely not contribute one bit to this team and has been just an excellent, excellent guy to throw out there for 10, 12 minutes a game to give Gillespie a blow and not be such a drop-off that it's a real issue. But, the fact that Gapare is able to contribute right away, I mean, you've got a situation, even with Geronimo hurt, you've got a situation where you can play one of those three big guys and not have to count on playing Queen and Reese all together at the same time. Reese went out with 2 fouls, 8 minutes into the first half, 10 minutes in?
Yep.
Didn't even bother him one bit.
Nope.
Right? Not even one bit. I mean, last year, that's a death sentence. And, I mean, it's just.
Not only is it not a death sentence, they kept increasing the lead. Like, they almost got better without him in a way.
Right. And because in a way, Gapare and Queen are a better tandem, right? Because,
right.
you can do some different stuff with them the way you can't expect Juju to go out to the 3-point line and stretch the defense at all the way that Gapare can, because he's now hitting a couple threes to go along with his athleticism. But I mean, it's just wild watching this team. Willard has pressed, for all we've given Willard, we've given him plenty, and he's deserved some of it. But in terms of the guys he brought in with this bunch, Rice was better than anybody expected. Young's better than anybody expected. Gapare's better than anybody expected. Miguel is you can start to see he struggled a little bit earlier, had a little that hero ball kind of thing going on. You feel like he's starting to fit in a little bit more. Still a couple shots maybe you're not super happy with, but he's the kind of guy who's going to go on a 12-point personal run every once in a while, and you live with that, right? I mean, so far, just in terms of the guys he brought in, it looks like everybody is overperforming, and it looks like they actually fit together on the team, which, as we saw last year.
Gapare wasn't just a body. He didn't put up huge numbers. Obviously, Damon Stoudemire was not getting his potential out of him because he's not just a guy who you're surprised can give you a little something off the bench. He's a dynamic player who could be like a really good starter next year and could be this year even if you had room for him. I took it down the past 3 games. He's 16 of 23, 13.3 points and 2.7 blocks per game in 22 minutes per game.
That'll work.
That second half, the alley-oop that he almost took from behind, if he had made
I think the whole roof would have blown off the
place.
place.
My goodness. But hang on, we got a good comment here because we're praising everyone. It makes me sad to do this, but from Dimitri Pantazis, should DHS get fewer minutes? It's the one negative still.
He's not getting that many. What's he at? I'd have to look. Since he went to the bench, he can't be over 20 a game, 18 a game. But yeah, with Gapare emerging like that and him being more of a wing than a post guy, despite his size, I think he definitely will take some of Harris Smith's
I just
minutes.
hope he sticks with it and keeps going. Just keep going, keep working. He can become a good player, a good member of the program. It's not there yet, but it can happen. He's still a quarter of the way through his second year.
And that's the thing. He doesn't have to be dependent on this year. That's different. It's like, yes, you would love for him to have a little bit more confidence. And when he's got the ball in his hands, really feel like he can go there and go get a bucket. But he doesn't have to be counted on. So if he ends up putting it together, that's bonus at this point, right? I mean, that's the difference between this year and last year. Last year, Willard was expecting DHS and Kaiser and all those guys to walk in and give you, 10 and 6, and neither of them were capable of that, right? And DHS is going to be able out there. He's at least a good body. He plays good defense. He's going to give you something. You certainly wish that he'd be able to give you a little bit more on the offensive end, but it's not necessary right now. And as long as that's the case, let him work through it. Certainly in a situation where you're up by 40 in the second half against a conference opponent. You know what I mean?
Did we lose Jeff?
I think we lost Jeffrey.
Well, he was only going to stay for a little while anyway because he has a lot to go on. So I don't know if he may just say, F it.
He probably didn't even realize that he cut out.
He may be. Yeah, we don't know. He doesn't. So we'll see. But either way, so many good. Here he comes back. So many good things to feel. It feels fun again for the first time. I'm watching. I left it on. I'm watching Michigan State and Minnesota, and I'm like back in. I'm back for the first time, and I can't remember how long. Let me add Jeff back. He's back in. There he is.
It's very tough.
Go ahead, Paul.
I was just going to say it's really tough last year after a year like that where, you just don't even want to watch like the other conference games because you just feel bad. I think the issue with this team now is going to be like, all right, well, I'm pretty sure they're good, but like, how good? Can they go into Purdue on Sunday and knock them off? I mean, are we going to see a situation like last year where, they can shoot, a decent amount from 3 at home, but then they go on the road and they can't shoot 20%? Like, I do feel like there are still a few questions that need answering at this point, but I mean, you certainly have to be encouraged by what you've seen.
Well, yeah, because you want to see it over the course of longer than it's still small sample size. You want to see it over the course of half a season, a full season before you can confidently say some of those things. Because the second half was a lapse. Yes, it was a mental lapse, but they've had other mental lapses at other moments in other games too, where they've had droughts. So, they're not perfect, of course. So you just want to see development over the course of the season. And hopefully it just keeps going as of right now.
A few things Paul said, compared it to that Melo game in 2014. That's spot on. This feels like that kind of.
Oh, hang on real quick. The only difference between that game and this one, we don't have Matt Norlander on the post game.
That's a shame.
Because that was the game.
That was the game. That was the game.
Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
Technically, we're colleagues. I can send him a message and see if he wants to come on if you guys want.
10 years later.
I tried and he ignored me. So
I'm not sure the 10 years have been helpful to my argument of Maryland's history over Purdue, given what's happened in those 10 years. But
he wasn't. His prediction wasn't right. Didn't come true for like 7 years. It's hard to give him credit for that.
Still.
Yeah, but that does feel exactly like that. It feels like after a dormant period, just a fast kind of explosive. Oh yeah, like they might have some swagger back. This could be a team that could do some things. Same dynamic with the McDonald's All-American local freshman being kind of the spark for all of it with Melo and now Queen. I said the exact same thing as you said, Paul, when the game ended. Like, they're definitely good. There's no question they're good. But is it top 25 good or something different where you're, competing for that Big Ten title and, having a high seed in the NCAA? We can't go there yet. But, the good news is we're going to find out a lot more really soon. Like, this was a great performance, but it would have kind of been like, if they went straight back to playing like the Alcorn States of the world. But now you go straight to number 8 Purdue next, so you have a chance to be like go from completely off the national radar to maybe like ranked
top 10.
I don't know about 10, but top 20, top 15 maybe if they beat Purdue.
At least top 15 if they beat Purdue.
Yeah, because it's just hard to jump all the way from the outside into the top 10. But yeah, I mean, it could it's escalating pretty quickly right now for them. So that Purdue game is going to be really interesting.
Speaking of which, if anybody's watching and you have the Ken Palm link and you're refreshing it for us or it's on the board, so please post it in the chat so we can see what the updated rankings are for Ken Palm. I'm not doing that right now. So
should we get comments? Should we do an informal poll in the comments to see if they want us to talk about all signing day or just blabber about basketball winning the national title this year?
Oregon went. Oh, so Tony Kane said this, a Facebook comment. That's kind of rare. Oregon went from not rated to 12th, so it's possible. There you go.
Yeah.
Wait.
I feel like you have to get a couple of ranked wins.
Wait a second. We're 19th on Ken Palm?
Yeah, they were 20. What were they the other day? 25th, 28th?
19th on Ken Palm. And 16 on Torvik. So that's really, really good. And if
you want to bet that Torvik doesn't have Derek Queen averaging 6 and 5 this year anymore, Larry? You want to? I'm never letting that go. I'm never ever letting that go.
Yeah. Why don't you write him, Paul? Why don't you send him a letter? Send him a nasty worded letter.
Hey, nerd!
What the H?
Wrong?
What the H?
What in the freaking H? What kind of prediction was this?
If they win at Purdue, they'll be close to top 10 in both those. So it would be
tough place to win.
Very
well, and that's going to be the one. Like, if they go in there and they win that game, then it's like, all right, this is on, right? I mean, because we talked about this in the beginning, right? When we were kind of trying to figure out what the season would look like, it was like, okay. For me, I was like, all right, well, ask me in January, right? Because I feel like even now, I like all the pieces and I like what I'm seeing, but like you don't know whether these guys with all these new faces and all these new positions and kind of, Willard even changing the way he's coached. I mean, let's talk about that for a second. I'll finish my point afterwards. But like, the idea that like now we're just at the secondary break even. Like they're getting down the fast. They've got to be really up there in tempo ratings right now. And like that story, was that you or Wes or somebody else who wrote that story about Willard talking to some analytics nerd who convinced him that like going and chucking a 3 early in the shot clock is way better than passing it around for 20 seconds and having a bad turnover. Like find that guy and like knight him. Like nerd, if you're out there, if you belong to us, you're one of ours, let me know and I'll buy you a car or something, because like this is what I want to see. This is Maryland basketball. Maryland basketball is aggressive, it's fast, and it plays with swagger, and that's what we've seen so far. And it's just, God, I want to cry. It's beautiful.
Yeah, they showed Gary, he had to be loving the pressing, right?
The
pressing,
and you know what I bet
he making any shots. And
what I bet Gary loved so much was when running that high-low with Julian and Derek, like because they're starting to feel a little bit, dude. That's part of how they got off that quick start.
And Gapare, you can start seeing Queen at the free throw line, like doing that thing in the middle. Gapare coming around the back. That is like LaRon Prophet reincarnated. That play, he ran around the back, and every once in a while, the other team would lose him, and he would come in and alley-oop the most high-flying dunk ever. I think Gapare is going to have a bunch of those this year. That's going to happen a lot. That's that down screen. That's just old school flex stuff. Like Gary's probably just looking at and just nodding on like a proud papa. That's Dr. Tom O'Brien shit right there.
Yeah, we've talked a lot like how they haven't had that many of those big athletic 6'9" dunk on your head wings forwards in recent years, and then Marcus Jackson seemed like he'd finally be that guy. He decommits, but they've already got him with Gapare. I mean, he is that guy. He's got those kind of game-changing dynamic. And then Jay Young, who Paul mentioned earlier, I mean, we all thought, that signing was not met with a lot of positivity because he hadn't really, produced a lot of numbers anywhere he'd been, played, maybe 10 minutes a game at Memphis last year. So he's good. He reminds me of one of those scrappy, like mid-90s style backup guards they'd have who doesn't need to shoot. Now everybody's a 3-point shooter, and he can't hit the three, but he's also got, I think he must have incredibly long arms because he's not a tall guy, but at least 4 or 5 times this season, he's just gotten up and pinned somebody's shot to the backboard.
Well, he had that oop the other day.
Yeah.
I didn't think he had that club in his bag.
His long,
he's
arms
like
look very
5'10".
long. Yeah. And then, Rodney Rice, I think people really kind of forgot how talented he was because he didn't play for a while, but he had the credentials to be as good. Actually, he hasn't shot the ball as well as I would have expected. His shot's been, to me, coming off a little flat too often, but either way, he's, that's kind of the funny thing is he was the guy, well, he can hit shots, but what else is he going to do? Well, he's hitting shots at a decent rate, but he's really good with mid-range scoring. He's a good ball handler. His assist to turnover ratio is great. And then, who else?
Yeah,
who's the other addition that I'm forgetting? Gillespie. Yeah, and then and Miguel's a good scorer. I think he has some habits in terms of like really looking for his shot 2 or 3 times before passing, as opposed to like quickly seeing if the window is there and doing it. So that, I think he needs to fix that if he's going to add as much value as he can to winning games. But, he's still, last year, he would have been, by far your second best scorer after Jameer Young. So,
well, Rice had an awful game shooting from behind three. Was he 0 for 5? I'm not remembering right now, but
yeah, he was chucking fastballs from out there tonight. Like that's the only kind of issue there. Yeah.
Over 6, still got 9 points though.
Yeah,
so,
he finds
because that dribble drive mid range popping,
right,
just kind of
still was able to contribute.
Him and Gillespie are really both good at that, just kind of hitting that like little 10-footer, when they got traffic in front of the rim. And, obviously Queen and Reese down there, are gonna cause some spacing issues at times. So like I know that like I don't think they're running anything offensively that's particularly, novel or anything. Like they're just kind of doing the same stuff, but like these guys just seem to fit really well with each other. And things are just working. It's almost like that kind of basketball IQ that you're seeing from Queen is contagious, because you're seeing all these guys where you feel like last year or the year before, they get running downhill off a ball screen and they're just going to the rim, whether there's 5 guys standing in their way or not, instead of this time just stopping and popping that little floater from 8 feet. And it's unstoppable when they're playing well. I mean, as we saw in the first half.
They're really good and also way freaking bigger than everybody they play, including Ohio State. When you're running out Derek Queen and Julian Reese and Tafara Gapari at the same time, that's not that much smaller than an NBA front court. And it hasn't hurt them so far defensively. I'm sure it will against some really good teams that play small and they're going to run them around and hit a lot of threes and get them in foul trouble. That's going to happen, obviously, but it hasn't really been an issue so far.
Yeah, and Queen for being a big guy, a real big guy, and Gapari with his athleticism, they're switching everything up top, and it hasn't really burned them yet. I'm sure eventually there's it's the type of thing where they're going to get enough tape on what's going on, and some smart coaches along the way will figure out ways to combat that. But I mean, to this point, you can't be anything but really happy about it.
We've got a really good crowd here. A lot of people watching live, excited about what just happened. If you are excited about what just happened, do us a favor. Click like on this video and subscribe for us. Please do that for us. We'll be here. We're generally about once a week through the season. So hopefully, I think we got a lot of new
and watch the interview from earlier today, right?
Oh yeah. We did the interview earlier today with Steve Shanwald. And he's the one who donated the $18 million to the program. So that's on the site as well. You want to check that out. Really cool guy. And
I'm devastated. I missed this. I missed that this morning because I wanted to get him on my team in terms of getting my name on that urinal. I figured that's the type of guy that could make that type of thing happen. So
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, we got to work
Yeah,
on that.
and Larry asked him what his next donation was going to be. He was like, nothing. He's like, I have no money.
He
I
said,
have no money left. I'm broke.
No, that was in the fill in the blank. The last one was the amount of your next donation will be worth, and we all laughed. And he said 0. That was funny. It was meant to be a joke, obviously. So
That's good.
Yeah. So he was very good. So watch that. It was really good. We are tied. Biggest halftime Big Ten conference lead since '96. Yeah, what was that stat again? They had
it was the biggest halftime lead in Big Ten conference history in the past almost 30
years. Wow.
Yep.
I mean,
that
that's the thing. Like they, again, in terms of the final, they only won by 24 or something. Like they beat Ohio State that one year by 35. I think they beat Penn State pretty bad one of those times. So the end score wasn't so bad, but the half, that 50-17, I mean, that was just an absolute whooping. And
people see that
historic
and
one. Yes, yeah. And it's the type of thing. It's one of those games. There was no other game on right now. That's the type of game that gets talked about and kind of gets you talked about, especially as you got a Big Ten triple header going on a Big Ten network tonight. Everybody in the conference is looking at this and be like, oh, okay.
Well, and the good news for Willard is that's the kind of game where your whole team's confidence is going to go up, but Ohio State is not such a big name opponent that they're going to start getting cocky. You got that. It's gradual. You go to Purdue now, and they all know that's the big chance. It's not like this was the ranked team, and now you got to keep up your intensity.
Yeah, I mean, this was more the trap game than anything, right? I mean, this was the one that you worry about if you're looking ahead to the Purdue game.
If they lost, then they're looking at 8-4 all of a sudden, maybe 8-3.
8-3, yeah.
So, and 0-2 in the conference. This, oh my goodness. How from Hunter Riggs, he says, how about that Gillespie crossover ankle breaker, and dribbled back and sunk the 3. That was woo.
If you believe in a supreme
poor man's Randolph Childress.
Oh
the
yeah.
ACC tournament.
And
if you believe in a supreme being, pray for that man.
He stared down the bench after that too.
Gillespie is really good. I mean, I haven't watched enough Big Ten games to rank them, but I would imagine he's got to be top 3, top 4 point guards in the Big Ten.
Think about for a second how good Maryland's guards have been in the past decade plus. I mean, you've gone from Melo Trimble to Ant Cowan to Fats Russell to Jameer Young and now Gillespie. I mean, that is a lot of talent. They've been really good at pulling guys out of the portal to play that lead guard spot. And the thing I like about Gillespie the most is he might be the best passer and distributor out of all those guys. I mean, he is really good about not only getting his own shot, but also getting guys into the offense, kind of getting other people good looks.
Yeah, before the season, I think I wrote this on the site. I was told they felt like he had some similarities to Cowan, and it's a pretty good comparison. I think him and Anthony Cowan, I think, was probably faster, like in a straight line, whereas has a little more explosiveness with his first step and his leaping ability. Like he's a sneaky, really good athlete. You can tell he was a football player. Jumper's probably a little better maybe than Cowan's. I'm not saying he's necessarily going to be as good, but I can see the comparison now.
Yeah, a lot of good players that you can say, hey, they're in the top 3 or 4 in their position in the league. There could be 4 of them, 5.
Certainly 3. I mean,
certainly 3.
Gillespie, Juju, and
Rice and Miguel are on the verge of that.
They're certainly
solid.
We'll see. I mean, they're solid Big Ten starter guys. I think that's really what you're asking for at this point, especially when you bring in transfers like that, where you've got these, guy coming from South Florida, and a guy who played 8 games at Virginia Tech. Like you don't really know exactly what you're getting there, but they've certainly proven that they can play at this level without any consequence. And the thing Hummel also mentioned, Hummel's excellent color guy. I really enjoy when he does these games. He also talked about how Maryland isn't super dependent on one guy to score. I mean, it feels like at any point, any of those 5 guys, and now 6 if you include Gapare, could go off for 20 tonight. Like everybody's got that talent, and everybody's done it so far at some point during the season. Like, so it's not even theoretical anymore. It's just what they can do. So it's not just like, oh, a team can come and say, all right, we got to shut down Queen tonight. It's like, all right, well, Juju's still there, right? Kapari's still there. All right, we're going to shut down Gillespie. All right, well, he passes off, and he's got all these other guys who can shoot the ball, move the ball around. Like, man, this could be a really, really dangerous team if they can really fully get all this stuff together.
I've been saying top 25 all year. I'm almost ready to say top 10 right now.
Top three.
I'm not Rutgers Al.
Top 1, baby. I don't know.
Rutgers Al.
Get me to the end of the year. You know, whether you beat Purdue or not, you win the rest of those games and you get set up going to the meat of the conference schedule with 1 or 2 losses. You're in good shape, man. I feel really good about
Jeff.
that.
From Roz Wheat on X.
Wow.
Before tonight, Gillespie is the 18th best player in the country on Evan Maya. Well, he just jumped a bunch of spots.
Yeah, he might be 12 or 13 tonight.
Yeah. So he moved up.
And, you know, no, go ahead, Jeff.
Sneaky good. He's sneaky good because he's not putting up huge numbers again because of the balance, but the percentages are great. You know, his defense is great.
He just jumps off the screen when you watch him. I mean, that's what it is for me. It's just like, okay, this dude knows exactly what he's doing. Like at every moment, like there's just no lack of abandon, no loss of control. Like he's just completely in control of what he's doing out there. And, you know, it feels like I we're almost 10 games into the season. I couldn't count on 5 fingers, you know, how many real boneheaded mistakes he's made with the ball in his hands. And he's had the ball in his hands a lot. The one thing I want to bring up with you, Jeff, is Gillespie is still sitting on the bench. It makes you wonder because of Gillespie's ability, especially as a defender, and especially once you get into the Big Ten Conference, you're starting to face teams that play a lot more bigs, where you could potentially have foul trouble with Reese and Queen and Gapare. What's his status right now, and do you know what's happening there? Because it's been a bit of a YOLO kind of thing, right?
Geronimo, you mean?
Oh, I said Gillespie. I meant Geronimo.
Yeah. No, I knew what you meant. No word. It's just a hamstring. You know, those are the most annoying injuries because you just have no idea when you're able to come back. Half the time you come back too early, as I know well. In my very comparable athleticism to Jordan Geronimo, I pulled my hamstring like 3 times in a row and haven't played ball in months because of it. So, like,
and also you blocked Steve Francis. So,
I definitely I altered his shot at the rim.
Larry gets a tip every time he mentions that on a broadcast.
Yeah.
From
from Jeff, I get the tip because
I got street cred is essential, but they haven't said, Willard hasn't said anything about when he'll be back. Hamstrings are unpredictable. I think now with, you know, Braden Pierce wasn't going to play a lot this year, but he was at least an insurance policy against foul trouble or having an injury or something like that. So now you don't have him. Geronimo is going to have to basically be your third center. Willard had talked about that in the preseason, playing small ball with him as a center. So now I feel like you need him back a little bit more because you don't have Pierce. And, you know, there's really not. I mean, Queen and Reese have been playing a lot more minutes together than Willard expected, but you still got to have a third big.
I knew that was going to happen, by the way. We talked about this for the year, and I said, do the math. It doesn't work. And it's playing out like that. I knew that they were going to happen.
I think it would have worked if Gillespie was healthy. You know, if you got Kapari playing 20 a game.
Geronimo.
Damn it, I did it again. Sorry, Jordan Geronimo. I apologize for all the things I've said about you, especially misquoting your name. But if Geronimo was healthy, you'd have 4 guys who can actually play. Like, I think you could have spaced it out a little bit more. I think the issue is these, you know, Reese and Queen have figured out how to play together. It seems like already. I mean, I was really worried about spacing and, you know, whether they'd really be able to be on the floor together. Because, you know, Queen obviously likes to shoot a 3 every once in a while, but, you know, he hasn't made one yet. So he's not exactly a massive threat out there. He certainly is to the elbow, but that seems to have been enough room for him to kind of play that high post, let Reese bang down low, and it's worked so far. So, My thought with that, Larry, was that Willard was kind of admitting, I don't know if it's going to work. Like, we're going to try it, but I'm not sure it's going to work.
Well, I don't see why you worry about it anymore because they are playing well together.
Oh yeah,
Perfectly
now I don't
fine.
care. Now I don't care.
Queen can step out and he's doing that almost like the point forward role, point center, whatever you want to call it. And they both can start a decent distance from the bucket and work their man down and make a move and score. They can both do it.
Now when Reese gets into it, his inevitable, second foul 3 minutes into the game, in January against Purdue or whatever, you just slide Queen to center and bring Gapare, put him at the 4.
Do you almost worry about when you're talking about Geronimo? I was kind of thinking maybe the rotation is actually working better without him. Does he come back and kind of mess that up a little bit? Do you ever worry about that at all?
I worry about everything, but I mean, I don't think so because
Gapare wouldn't be doing what he's doing if Geronimo was in.
Right. And the fact that Gapare has shown what he's shown means, okay, he's going to have to play some more minutes as it is. So Gillespie, God damn it, Geronimo, when he comes back, I mean, he's probably not going to play as many minutes as he was earlier in the season and as much as people probably suspected he is. But like his defensive ability is a big, big game changer, when you're trying to close out a tough game, right? He's got a role to play if he's playing the 4 or the 5. The issue with Geronimo was always put him in at the 3, which he just can't do because he can't shoot.
Gapare is a 3-4, Geronimo is a 4-5. Geronimo doesn't have the shooting, like you said, or the creation, the ability to create his own shots. Gapare is more like a guard compared to him. And not only can he defend, he's knocking down threes, he's driving and dunking on people. I mean, he's got that, I'm not trying to say he's an NBA player, but he's got that NBA size and versatility that they love.
He is. This year for Gapare is equal to Wilcox's freshman year, and next year we get sophomore Wilcox. How about that? And Queen stays. So you got Queen, Gapare as sophomore Wilcox, and you've got Gillespie and Rice coming back. There you go. Top 5 team in the country.
Rice is Juan Dixon.
Yes.
Malachi Palmer is Gravis Vasquez.
There you go.
Don't get me worried about next year.
Yeah.
Hey, no, but the thing
let me enjoy this first.
No, you don't want to worry about next year. But here's the thing: in college sports right now, especially when you're rebuilding, the odds are you're going to be taking a bunch of 1-year rentals, and next year is going to be completely different. This year, it's kind of unusual. They seem to be rebuilt, ready to go back to the tournament. All these things. But most of these guys will all, Queen obviously is the $1 million question. But then other than Reese, you're getting almost pretty much everybody back.
A lot of them back. Yeah. So someone at 9, it was a while ago, 18 minutes ago, and I just remembered this. Torvik has him at 12-8 in the league and currently has him as a 5 seed in March. Right now, I'm offering you the 5 seed. You taking it? I'm not.
Nope.
I think they can.
No, I mean, I pretty much always say no, and then 80% of the time I end up being like, I'm a homer. I should have said I should have said that's a take, but I don't know. There's just a different kind of upside. It's not like they're just good. They're good with a lot of potential.
Yeah,
I
think they're earlier in the year in when they had some good games back to back. I gave you the question, Jeff. I said they're going to be the higher seed in the first round of the tournament. You got to say yes to that now.
Yeah, I mean,
we
have to remember there's going to be some. I mean, it all seems perfect now. There's going to be some road games where it is not good at all. Like
nope.
Willard is
not happening.
They've struggled on the road in the Big Ten so far.
Undefeated.
So
30-1.
30-1.
Yes, they're going undefeated the rest of the year.
I just want the ride, man.
Yeah,
I mean, Maryland has. It feels like they have, other than maybe the COVID year. Maryland doesn't feel like it's been on a ride for a while. So like, even if you gave me a 5 seed before the season, I'd probably take it. But now that I've seen what Queen can do and I've seen how much fun this team can be when they're playing, like I want the ride. Like even if they end up being an 8 seed, it's like, all right, well, that's a bummer. But like, I'm still taking that chance. You know what I mean? I mean, it looks like they've got enough talent. like they could really put something together this year. And, like Jeff said, we're not the only team that's going through all this stuff with new players and, these 1-year mercenaries and rentals. Everybody's going through that. Even the good teams are going through that. So like, you're going to have situations where like there are a lot of gettable teams out there. And I think you're going to have a lot of teams that are going to have bad nights. So I wouldn't take anything at this point. I mean, I feel like the whole season is wide open now. I mean, Maryland could just revert back to being what they thought we would be, what we thought they would be at the beginning of the season, or they could go on a real run. But yeah, I'm taking that chance.
Yeah.
And it's good for recruiting, which, by the way, Colby will have some exclusive basketball recruiting news Thursday morning on the site.
Oh,
is it about someone whose name rhymes with Lance Fallery?
I don't know.
Okay, how about this? For one hint, is it class of 25 or class of 26?
I really don't know, man. I just don't know.
All right, well, that's all you guys need to know. So let's make sure we're clicking on the site tomorrow.
Yeah, Mr. Popo has a comment for you, Jeff. Jeffrey, you tease.
It's got to show him that leg, man.
Let me ask you guys who are watching. Everyone is super excited about the game tonight. Just quickly in the chat, tell us, do you want us to talk about also good news, the football team getting all of their commitments today, didn't lose anybody despite the bad season, top 25 class. You guys want us to talk about that or no? Just let us know. But,
by the way, nice ovation for Malik Washington at Comcast tonight. That's useful.
We're hoping that he is going to be for the football team what Derek Queen has been for the basketball team.
That'd certainly be useful.
That would be really, really good.
It was a bit weird not having a Mary Locksmith today, but usually Loxley is able to steal somebody on signing day. That's the only bummer.
Happen. Well, don't forget he's got another signing day, so he's got a chance still.
That's true.
He's got a few more months to. Is there anyone on the radar, Jeff, football wise? That
probably not. I think it's a combination of things. When you have that kind of season and you keep every single verbal. I mean, there were some guys who decommitted a long time ago, but in the stretch towards signing day, you keep every single verbal on board. That takes a lot of work. And then probably, more importantly, they got to turn it around quick. Like he knows next year is make or break, and freshmen just don't help you that much. So they're he's talking a lot about how flush with cash they are. Obviously, we know about that huge donation Maryland got yesterday, which Steve Shamwell told us can go for anything. So a lot of that is going to be in NIL. So they're going to have the money to go get guys in the portal who can help immediately. And so I think that's
when does that start?
December 9th.
December 9th, the football portal starts.
Portal opens.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so you got to go out and get 2 starters at receiver. You got to get at least 2 really good linemen, maybe 3. Need a ton of corners. Yeah, need a ton of cornerbacks, and those are some of the most expensive positions in the portal, but that's going to be the focus. And, he's talking, if you listen to his little comments, you can tell he's got some things cooking, so it'll be interesting.
Jalen Gilchrist, the highly rated offensive lineman, didn't commit as early as everybody else, and it took a few hours for him to commit. My guess as to what happened was other schools were offering money, and he said, hey, Locks, I need more money. And Maryland scrambled and got the money to keep him. Am I right on that? I have no inside information. That's a complete guess on my part, but
I don't on that one. I don't know if you're right. I have not asked, but that was my immediate assumption also, just by the way.
Okay.
Radio silent for like 4 hours. So I thought the same thing. And I know there was concern there at Maryland for a few hours. Like it wasn't just fan panic, but got it done. Got one of their highest rated offensive linemen in years. Your future bookend tackle is going to guard what you hope is your future, franchise quarterback. So, it's key spots there. They had 4 other 4-stars, I believe, in the class, 3 or 4 others top 25 when you have a nightmarish season like that at Maryland is about
Really good.
as good as it gets.
Who's the offensive lineman that Maryland almost had last year, went to Colorado, started at left tackle this year?
Jordan Seaton.
Jordan Seaton. So he started this
You
year. Has
never
been
know.
very good. So maybe
I will tell you this: he was pretty much committed to me. I mean, there's a lot of gray areas in committed now, obviously, but he was committed to Maryland toward the very end down to signing day last year. Great relationship with Loxley, and then Colorado just, swept him off his feet.
Literally.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised with anything there, but a guy like that, the other catch there, there's definitely going to be some big names coming. I have no doubt about that. The catch with a guy like him is he's not just a big name; he's an elite name at the second most valuable position right after quarterback. So a guy like that, literally, I talked to somebody about him today, just hypothetically, and he said probably $1 million or more. So that's. Right there, you're looking at, you're probably, if he's $1 million, I'm guessing, Maryland could have 12, 15 million bucks next year. You can't spend, 8% of your salary of your cap on one guy. Maybe you can. I don't know.
Look, that's crazy. But also, if Maryland's got that kind of money, hey, good, right?
Well, but you can only spend 20.
Does.
You can only spend 20 for the whole department. It's hard because we don't know if the school's going to fund that whole 20, and then this donation that they got and other donations will be on top of that, or if they're going to get to the 20 by using those donations along with school funds. Like there's so much that's still undetermined or publicly known, but yeah, it's about to get crazy in the portal this year. The money that's going to go around is going to be insane.
When does the actual house thing go into effect? Is that for next calendar year, next season?
Yeah, it's next July is when it officially starts.
So they got to ramp up for that now, basically.
Yeah. And the thing is, it starts then, you can actually, the paychecks can start flowing and the deals and whatever, but verbally it's already started because it's before next season anyway. So of course you're going to use it to negotiate. So it's going to get even crazier than it's been, for better or worse. Obviously, we've talked about that a million times, but maybe if they can get it to where there's some multi-year deals, then guys won't be transferring as much, and I think it will stop eroding the product as it has been.
Yeah, it's hard to know. I mean, nobody's going to know what the numbers should be, right? Because just because the schools can only spend themselves up to 20 doesn't mean that these collectives aren't going to jump on top of that with another $5, $10, $20 million of these big schools anyway. Right. So, I mean, it's going to be nuts, and there might be a lot of jostling in terms of guys, thinking, oh, I got $1 million a year. That's great. And then, in July, they hear their buddies get 2 over Ohio State. And it's like, oh, well, now I want 2. Right. And maybe and it's just going to get, it's going to get silly. But the good thing for me is that Maryland feels like they can compete financially, and Loxley is frankly scared enough about his current position to be willing to fight to the death over it. So that works for me. That's all you can ask for.
Yeah. And with the collectives, that is still, a school like Texas or whatever that can raise a ton of money with the collective, still going to have advantages clearly, but any deal that's not from the school is from a collective or a brand or whatever over $600 is going to have to be reviewed by a panel, or not a panel, but some sort of clearinghouse that's going to determine whether it's fair market value, which to me just sounds like a total clusterfuck. Thousands of deals coming in every week where you have to make some sort of subjective analysis on whether that's fair market value is just.
And is that an NCAA that like who has the power to enforce?
It's part of the settlement. It's part of the settlement. It's going to be run by Deloitte, I guess, is what I read.
Okay.
And so obviously they know what they're doing, but
third party's better than the NCAA, I guess.
Yeah, but that doesn't seem sustainable at all. But either way, that should in theory limit schools from just buying players with way over the top collective money on top of the salary cap.
Jeff, we're getting up to your deadline here. So before we finish out, do you guys want to do some Purdue predictions? What do you think? Sunday, Purdue?
Well, that place has been a bit of a house of horrors for Maryland over the years. But I don't know how good Purdue is right now exactly. I'm not going to lie and act like I've watched a ton of them. I don't know. It's hard to predict a win like that this early, and I don't want to get so over my skis after tonight because it feels like teams that sometimes put up this type of score will then go and lay a stinker the next game. So I don't know. I expect Maryland will probably lose, but you'd like to think if they do, it's going to be a pretty good game still, and they can show that they can compete at that level like they did against Marquette.
Yeah, I can't predict a win. That would be overvaluing what they've done so far, as good as they look, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they are clearly getting better really fast, and I think Gillespie can match up with Braden Smith pretty well, so that's going to be a fun one to watch to see where they're at.
I think they're going to win. And I think one of the biggest reasons is because the defense that Willard's running, forcing teams to struggle to get across half court, and they're not even starting their offense until almost 15 seconds or less sometimes, the way they're doing that. Purdue, with their half court, is great in their half court, but if you cut out half of their shot clock, they might not be so great. They may not be getting great looks every possession like they normally do. So I feel like Maryland's going to be able to play defense against them and disrupt them. And I think Maryland's going to be able to run against them. And I think they're going to win. I think they're going to go do it. They're going to be ranked in the top 15 of the country, and it's going to be game on. That's what I think's happening.
Things would get pretty magical if they pulled that one off. There'd be a buzz, that we haven't, like Paul said, that I think we haven't seen since the season that was lost to COVID, the tournament.
Yeah. More than that.
I mean,
I feel more than that, actually.
That team had some pretty good stretches. They
did, but this team's better.
Yeah, I think so too. But that was a pretty good team. I mean, you had Cowan, Fernando, and Smith. Is that right? They all blend together in my head at this point. I think that's right.
Well, I don't think Fernando was there still. But you had Jalen Smith at his peak, right? His sophomore year, I guess, or junior year.
Sophomore, because he left after sophomore year. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that was a pretty good team, but I think really that just stuck in my head as the last time it was like, okay, this team is actually good enough to go and win the conference, right? I mean, that was the last time I can remember that much, even though they did kind of throw away that 3-game lead in the last 2 weeks.
And the best part of all of this is I can post links and information on social media, and it won't be immediately, bombarded by people throwing their own feces at me like it has been for the past year straight, basically, with football and basketball. So,
ooh, that's fun. I can just completely block Jeff out with this.
Holy
Paul,
shit!
you really? I saw that and I was like,
"Suck it, Jeff."
Go ahead and read it now, Paul. Go ahead and read it.
All right. So basically, this is a post from Braden Pierce's dad. He got poked in the eye on Saturday at practice and had a detached retina, which he went home Monday, had surgery last night. So he's going to be out for quite some time. But he said they're sitting here in Georgia watching, even with one eye, his guys destroy those filthy Buckeyes, and he's in good spirits. So good for him.
His dad's a Michigan guy, so that's why he's loving it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Dude, detached retina is no joke, man. That's awful, and I hope he can get better. And even if he doesn't contribute this year, like, he's certainly got some skills around the bucket. He might be a guy you wouldn't mind stashing on the bench and see what you can get out of him in the next couple of years.
Yeah. All right. Well,
guy and a college basketball center who used to be a pitcher who I guess decided to grow to be 7 feet tall and then play basketball. So certainly not the normal progression for that type of guy.
But you have some basketball, baseball crossover guys.
Not centers.
Yeah.
7-foot centers.
Randy Johnson.
Pat Connaughton from Notre Dame was a big time baseball prospect. He's been in the NBA for a while.
That's
now.
right. He's a guard though. He's like 6'3", 6'4" guy.
Yeah,
right?
he was a pitcher.
And let's not forget Michael Jordan, who is, of course, an elite basketball and baseball player.
Hey man, being able to walk off a basketball court in your mid-30s and go, hit like 250 at AA, like that's a more impressive feat than I feel like anybody actually gave him at the time.
It is pretty good. It is.
I mean, at 6'6", that's hard.
It is.
I could do it.
Of course you could.
Yeah, with your busted ass hammy that you can't even, walk down the street without a hobble for the last couple months.
Terrible. I might have to switch it up to pickleball.
Oh no.
It's gonna be a sad day.
I tried pickleball. I went to there's the local gym. We went up and we tried to play, and everybody was like cutthroat over getting on the court.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, what is going on? I just want to come out and play. And they were so cutthroat. Like, I was here first. They had put their rackets in an order and something. Like, what are you guys doing? I'm out of here. Like, this is not that important. You guys are crazy.
Yeah, there was a video on Twitter of a pickleball game where the guy hit the game-winning point and started screaming, and the guy from the team jumps up and kicks him in the face. You got to watch it. It's hilarious.
Oh, I want to see it.
This is like inside oldwhiteGuySports.com right now.
Oh, no. At this gym, it is not old white guys.
It's young kids. The kids
Really?
love it.
Yes.
Oh wow, they've already stole it from the olds.
Multiracial.
Oh, yeah.
Right. There was old people, but there was multiracial, multi-age. Like, it was packed. And
me and my son went to play.
Yeah.
There was a group of 6, 3 guys, 3 girls, college age, and they had their own scoreboard. Literally, I was like, so we were both just talking trash on them the whole time. But
yeah. All right.
Well, I learned something new tonight. That's great. Well, I learned 2 things new. I learned that Maryland's probably pretty good, and that the young stole pickleball from the olds.
They are good. And not probably. They are good.
Oh, that's why you're here, Larry. You're supposed to rebalance our negativity with your effusive positivity.
I have been correctly calling this team all year.
What did you call them in the beginning of the season?
I said that they were good.
You said they would go to tourney, right?
That's very specific.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
you didn't say they were like top 15 good.
But very quickly I started saying they were top 25. Within a game or two, once they started, I said they're top 25. They're going to be a single digit seed in the tournament. I've been saying that for a long time. And now I'm even upping that.
That's fair.
I think they're even better than that. Anyway.
Famous last words.
Yeah.
They're not my last words. I'll be back next week to eat my words if I have to. So I hope I don't, though.
There will be more words.
Yeah. All right. I think we have exhausted all of this. we
can just sit here and just be like, Miguel.
Selton Miguel.
All right, I got it right.
I'm
very excited that I don't have to write. So
one thing I'm really glad about. Oh, he just left.
Yeah.
One thing I'm really glad about, I'll just say before we go, is that Gillespie and Rice don't have the same hairdo anymore. Because for a couple games there, they both had the white headband and the afro. And I'm going.
Malachi was doing that too a little bit. So
was he? Yeah. So I was like, a couple of times I'm like, I was not sure who was who. So I'm glad they stopped that. Rice has he's got like a man bun now.
Yeah, we're saying for Malachi, by the way, he was able to come in and provide some decent minutes too, and that's also, I think you're literally all of the guys that came into this season with some question marks have at least overperformed to some degree. Even Malachi, I don't think anybody expected he'd walk in and contribute very much, but just being able to get 6-8 minutes out of him to give some guys a blow, I mean, that's a win.
Yeah. All right. Come on, Mr. Popo, stop it. I didn't say that. I said 2 of them had the same. Stop it. Stop it.
Okay. On that note.
Anyway. All right. Hey, great win for the team. Very exciting. It's a lot of excitement around the program and the team right now, and very excited for Sunday. We'll see what happens. Purdue, and then are they playing on Wednesday again next week?
I don't know. I know they've got a couple more games against the MEACs of the world, and then that Syracuse game, which I think is next weekend, maybe next weekend or the weekend after.
I can't remember.
Yeah, so that's Purdue and Syracuse are kind of the two real teams that are left before you get to New Year's. So,
yeah,
you gotta at least split those, and you win both of those, and then you're in real business here. Syracuse is not particularly good. You just can't lose that one.
When they beat Purdue Sunday, that's when things go crazy and they get ranked in the top 15 in the country, and it's going to be off the charts. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
thank you.
Maybe we'll come up here and do it again if they win Sunday. I don't know. We'll see.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this post-game show. Very exciting, and we will see you guys next week. This is IMS Radio.